Live. Hello, Anthony.
Hello.
Oh, sorry, my face is not there yet. Hey, thanks for joining us, listeners. This is a great day. We're fortunate enough to have Anthony Brace with us. He is I'd be calling you a performance psychologist at North Brisbane Psychologist, but there may be a more technical term. What would that be?
Well, I guess I'm classified as a general psychologist, but a lot of what I do is performance-based. So I'm happy with performance psychologist.
Okay, nice. And I have been recently very interested in learning signs. So I came up with a name, a sign for you. You may have been given it before, but I'm not deaf, so I can't technically give it to you. But Anthony and Brace, I quite liked. You might introduce yourself as Anthony Brace. Yeah.
That one?
Yeah. So that's your braces, right? Like,
yeah.
In behind. Yeah, that's a good one. So today's topic came about because Anthony and I had a discussion yesterday about what he'd like to talk about. And if you go to Anthony's LinkedIn page, you'll see that he has uploaded his honours thesis, which is a very, very, very cool topic. It's called something like mental toughness and self-efficacy for ultra-endurance athletes. And when I looked into it a little further, that means for people who are running 50 to 100 Ks or 6 hours continuously through tumultuous terrain. I was like, okay, well, these guys are going to know a thing or two, right? Yeah. And then when I looked at mental toughness, I loved the definition, right? Personal capacity with consistently high subjective and objective performance, despite everyday challenges, despite stressors, as well as significant adversities. And I was like, yeah, we could all use some of that. That's life, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then when I looked a little further at the self-efficacy, I saw that you used a scale for measuring it. So my understanding would be that you would have a strong sense of the criteria that defines self-efficacy. I'd love to hear more about that criteria, but before that, just a very broad definition was from Bandura. And in fact, even just as a very broad introduction to self-efficacy, I remember when I first came across the word, I was studying health psychology as part of my undergrad. And when I came across Bandura's work, I thought that's what I need. So I think all of our listeners will relate. Self-efficacy applies to our relationships, to our careers. My understanding is it applies to our health on every level. So please, Anthony, I am hanging to hear your definition and understanding of self-efficacy.
So I guess the official definition is kind of something like your specific belief in a specific ability. So for an example, that may be, let's say on a soccer field, your belief in your ability to get the soccer ball into the goals from a certain angle. So I may believe that I can kick it from a 45-degree angle, but if I have less self-efficacy, I may, in the straight-on angle, then my self-efficacy is low for the straight-on angle, but high for the angle at a 45 degree.
Yeah.
Similar situation for maybe some runners think I have high self-efficacy because I can sprint really fast, so I can pass people, but I have low self-efficacy in overcoming the pain of a drawn-out endurance race.
Wow, okay. That was a very, very cool line. That could be somewhere that people might like to even start. One of my favorite journaling exercises is just to rule a line down the center of the page and have this and then that, and they're usually opposition. So I have high self-efficacy here. I mean, even what a cool statement to know I have high self-efficacy. Well, yes, it's a tough call. And then I have low self-efficacy, and this is something that you're going to talk us through, which I'm glad about, because in the areas where I have low self-efficacy, there's also a little bit of shame or embarrassment, or so to hold my hand while I'm going, right, yep, I'm not so proud of these things, and I know if I can bravely look at them, I'll probably be a more rounded person. I'll probably get my message across. I'll probably extend my reach, whatever else it might be. So that could be, even as a starting point, if you're listening and you have a pen and paper, on one side, high self-efficacy I have, and I have low self-efficacy in this region. And whether you want to brainstorm it while we're talking, there might be ideas that come to mind, or whether you want to pick it up later, and you might have a clearer sense of the meaning of this powerful word, self-efficacy. That was an awesome definition. I'm hearing specific belief in a specific ability, even down to the angle that I'm approaching. So beautiful. What else have you got for us on self-efficacy?
So self-efficacy can sometimes be confused with confidence. Very similar psychological constructs. So the difference being the specificity.
Specificity, yes.
Being specific,
yeah,
in a particular skill.
Yes.
So recognizing your self-efficacy when it's high in a certain area can help you have a more rounded balance on those days when you are essentially generally overall feeling low in confidence, or your self-esteem is just not feeling it, right? So the thing is with self-efficacy is the more things that you develop higher self-efficacy in, the more general overall confidence you're probably going to have as well.
The more self-efficacy, the more confidence. That's the general relationship. Yeah, that makes sense. So am I right that confidence and self-esteem, for example, are character traits, and self-efficacy is a skill, which is exciting because it means, okay, good. I can actually get better. I can actually improve my self-efficacy. I mean, which will improve my confidence.
Yeah.
Yes, there is a difference. So it's specific. It's the specificity that defines it. And that specificity is the relationship between the skill and the ability to produce that skill. Is that
to execute, to meet your expectations as well, hit the mark, so to speak, hit the bullseye, what you want to achieve.
Hit the mark. I like that.
Yeah.
Your ability to hit the mark. Okay, which relies heavily on knowing what the goal is, of course.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
that brings us to our next question, which is really for our audience, and that is, what are you working on? Where would you like more self-efficacy? I mean, here's an opportunity to go, hey, we've got Anthony's brain, let's pick it. And it helps if we have a goal in mind, like the football goal. So perhaps if you wouldn't mind guiding us through even a little meditation, perhaps, or mindful practice that allows us to contact what it is that we'd like to work with, touching on some of those domains that we've put in the post or we've spoken about earlier. Would that be okay?
Absolutely. So just to frame it, I think I would like to just briefly make a comment on performance in general, and how identifying low self-efficacy can actually enhance performance in multiple areas of your life.
Right.
So sometimes you may feel a little bit off. You might be having a bad day, or you've just been struggling recently, or just maybe for a long time. Maybe you're feeling burnt out, and your to-do list is getting longer and longer and longer. And you might even have low self-efficacy to overcome your to-do list, or you might be avoiding things on your to-do list because of low self-efficacy in that area. So it can certainly contribute to procrastination. Absolutely. So if, having that frame in mind, I guess what I like to do is think about it in 3 things you can do. So there's what you can do in the moment. So when you're actually faced with a skill that you're trying to execute or a task, there's what to do after the moment, and then there's what to do in between moments. So the meditation I will take you through now will be beneficial for helping you in the moment. So encourage you to close your eyes and get nice and comfy, and just take a moment to notice something that is not feeling quite right. Maybe there's some tasks on your to-do list that you are just not getting done. Or maybe there is, in a performance context, like sport or business, something like that, there's just something maybe that you keep failing at, or you feel like you're failing at. Some of the stuff is based on your interpretation, and I will take you through a little exercise later to clear up that interpretation. But I encourage you to just tap into that thing that just feels off right now. So sometimes it could be making you frustrated and angry or anxious. So I would encourage you to let go of the breath. So sometimes we hold our breath when we're stressed about something. Take a breath in and just let it go. And then let your shoulders drop. Let your chest drop. Just feel that tension leaving. And one final thing, what we always do when our survival mode starts to kick in is we start to tighten up our core as a signal to the brain to relax. I would encourage you to just let go of that core right now. Imagine it's full of pizza and it's just hanging over your belt. Just let it go. Okay, now that you've become calm, what can be really helpful is to break the task down into its smallest possible components. Because what we want to do is get small wins. So this is how we boost our self-efficacy, is we can't lie to the brain. We actually have to have achievements. The easiest way to do that is to break the task down smaller. And then when you're ready, I'd encourage you to come back and we will move on to the next part.
Awesome. I love that. I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, and I just put little boxes next to them, which let me know I need to check each of those.
Awesome. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for facilitating that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so that's all in the now column. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Well, it depends because you may not have time to break it down to what you're what's stressing you.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I would certainly practice that, letting go of the abdominal wall, all that stuff. You can kind of think about it like you want to be able to be calm in the face of a lion. That's the way I like to think about it. So just allow your body to relax. I see it as a bi-directional relationship. So we can speak to our survival instincts like anger and anxiety and freezing, that kind of stuff, fight and flight, nervousness. So when you're feeling that way, it's going to actually speak to those parts of your brain and start revving you up, so to speak, whether that's making you angry or really anxious. And your body will respond to that. But you do have control over your body. And when you do notice that, your stomach is on, let it go. It will speak to the brain to calm you down. But, we do know some sports do require that you switch your core on. The difference being that you've switched it on intentionally.
Yeah, okay, I'm hearing the bi-directional. I work a lot with biofeedback, which is placing the body the way that I want it.
Yes. Yeah.
And already that's a step of self-efficacy. Feeling more, like I can actually relax my hip flexors. For me, anxiety is very much in the psoas. I'm not sure if you're familiar that muscle, but it's so clear. It's the link from my lumbar through on the diagonal to my top of the femur.
Yeah.
And it literally impinges on my digestive organs, so you can see that relationship. But if I can create a physiological change, it's freaking empowering. And already, I feel more equipped. I'd love to ask you about, I heard you say you like to speak to your survival instincts. I'm wondering if that's an actual conversation. I do a lot of self-empathy practice and a lot of non-violent communication, which is very much a conversation, two parts of me. Sometimes, the child or the adult or the feminine or the masculine, but to speak to survival instinct sounds incredibly powerful. It's not something I've ever done. So I wonder, what is that for you?
Well, I guess self-talk is really interesting. There's a lot of controversial sort of arguments back and forth about it. Some saying it's best to just be in the moment, essentially the idea that athletes do motor patterns. And so what that means is you just want the brain free so that you can do motor patterns. But let's say you're in a marathon race and you've got a lot of time to think. You still do kind of want to be on top of that self-talk. An example of that is, so we talk about building self-efficacy by making it more achievable, breaking it down into small chunks. What can be really useful in marathon running is actually, and I found this a lot in my research, is just getting to the next tree or getting next to the next telephone pole. Or whatever landmarks is in your context where you're running. So you kind of do need a little bit of self-talk to that. And that will actually indirectly be speaking to your survival instincts, because, you might start sort of battering down the hatches into maybe a freeze response or something if you start getting really panicked that you're not going to be able to finish the race, for an example. So
Yeah.
what you probably can do is make it to the next tree.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess my initial response to that is when I freeze, I don't really have a lot of self-talk. Well, maybe I do, but I feel quite physically and mentally mobile. So I can understand that, but it would feel like I'm overriding what is a healthy, the freeze response is a healthy survival, lion, as you say, and that might save my life.
Yeah.
So that's where I have found personally the self-compassion critical, because sometimes my body just says no. I'm not doing it, and it almost feels like there could be a multitude of factors that are contributing to that. I think that are asking for my attention. So when you suggested to inquire, where am I off? That was really valuable to help shift that immobility, and self-compassion also facilitates that for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I love that you're distinguishing between the bodily response and the motor activation, and the self-talk. But they are both present in the moment.
Yeah.
This is such a cool topic. I'm just checking in with time, because my understanding is that you've given us a framework for breaking down self-efficacy into chunk-sized pieces.
Yep.
So in fact, already we've got some great homework for you guys, and feel free, to share any of your real life experience with us, because you've had this opportunity to make it a specific example, but I will check in the next couple of minutes. So if you have any questions for Anthony, it's a great time. And even if you give us some keywords about areas that you might be working in. For me, I'm working in the workspace, my work goals at the moment, or one particularly.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was great. And then I'm hearing that we could do the same thing, breaking it down in the after and then the in between. Is that where we're going with this, Anthony?
Yeah, well, I see three main moments: what you do in the moment, what you do after the moment, and what you do in between moments. So it depends where, for an example, we might have some harsh criticism on ourselves through that inner critic. So if you notice that that's something that you have difficulty with, is getting on top of that before it spirals you down too much into a unhelpful mood state.
Yes.
So what I would suggest to do there is to think about self-doubt, or if you're just frustrated with yourself, something like that, confidence and self-compassion as a dynamic. So they're not necessarily these things that are just going to be highly present equally at all times. So I'm actually going to say that it's probably important to have some self-doubt and to have some things that are frustrating you about your performance. Otherwise, maybe things are not important enough for you. Or if you don't, then you may not be motivated to break the thing down. Now, what that means is, so interesting thought to have both self-doubt and confidence at the same time as a performance measure, right?
Yes.
So how they interact is what the self-doubt does. It actually makes you do things to get better at the thing that you're doubting. So to get more confidence, you need to feel more competent. So a greater sense of competence, which is self-efficacy, right? In the thing that you're working on, that you want to achieve or accomplish. So the problem with self-doubt and self-frustration, that critical inner voice, is that if you only have that, if you don't have any self-compassion, you will get stuck. And if you are stuck, you won't do what you need to do to turn the self-doubt into action, essentially. So you won't break the task down into the smallest possible components to get small wins, and therefore you won't be able to build your confidence.
Totally.
Just
go ahead.
I was just going to say, just as a side note, the only personality profile that this doesn't really work for is narcissism. And that's because of a false sense of confidence.
Oh God, but aren't we all narcissistic in some way? And isn't it coming from a self-protection? I mean, it's really powerful work. I'm hearing that balance. I mean, when you say self-doubt, I'm thinking the critical mind. I mean, the critical mind is valuable. It's more objective, it's more logical, it's more rational. It's helping to facilitate my growth. And yes, self-compassion will help that. It's almost like the male is the logic, the critical thinker, and the female is the mother, the compassionate one. And we all need both.
Yep.
It reminds me of, you probably come across this being in the performance athletic space, but Csikszentmihalyi, his work in flow, and he works with a line. Excuse my scrap paper, and I believe on one of the axes we're looking for the degree of challenge.
Yes.
Because when we're challenged, we're actually on. If we're not challenged, we're distracted. But then the other one, and this may not be the exact words he uses, but it's something like comfort, which again I'm hearing fits in with the mothering, the self-compassion, coupled with the fathering and the critical mind saying, I see you, you can do better. I know you can. And then this state here he calls flow. And so long as we generally stay within this space, then we're pressing, we're edging.
Yes.
And that's how we can grow and extend the comfort zone.
Yeah. 100%. Yin and yang, hey?
Yin and yang. Yes, it is. Yeah, that's right. I mean, people have known this for a long time. We're just catching on. Wow, this has been just so wonderful. I'm going to check in with the community because I'm sure they have questions for you. What you might do while I just have a little scan is if you wouldn't mind just talking through so that people could finish that homework. And and that's the basic structure that we're looking to impart today. Is that right for you, Anthony? Yeah. And I know that we did talk about your awesome method, the good, better, how, which we're going to have to come back to because that sounds like a really cool one too. So take it away if you wouldn't mind just finishing off the homework, and I will be listening, but I'll take off my video.
So just to confirm that for the homework would be the good, better, how.
Oh, thank you, Anthony. No, well, I guess it could be. My thinking was more that you introduced the now and then the after and then the kind of a follow-up, I think it was.
So what to do after would be a good, better, how.
Oh, perfect. Then we've covered everything. Yay, thanks. Take her away.
Okay. So, as we just mentioned, talking about finding that nice balance, I'm going to give you a little reflection piece to do to help you find that balance.
Yay.
This is a very common method in the coaching literature. I like it because it's very, very simple, and it's easy to follow, it's easy to remember, and you can encourage your teammates to do it. You can encourage your family members to do it. You can encourage your work colleagues to do it. So after an event, essentially what you want to do is reflect on, especially if you're finding that inner critical voice happening. So you want to reflect on something good. So that being the first component, what is something that I did good? So let's say maybe I am trying to win a motorsport event. And there was one corner that I did really good.
Sorry, please carry on.
So motorsport event, like one thing I did good in the race was I overtook someone on a very difficult corner. So that's good. All right, now I'm boosted. I've got a little bit of self-compassion. Now, next thing I want to think about is, okay, well, I'm feeling off about the race. So what could I do better? So framing it self-compassionately with kindness and patience. So essentially, I also got overtook on that corner, and that's what I think I need to do better because that's where I lost the race, right? So you've pinpointed the main point of performance. Now, how I'm going to do that better is the next step. So, okay, so how? Well, maybe I need to practice that type of corner over and over and over. Okay, yep, fair enough. Well, how? The second how is the action plan. So you just jump straight in. Where and when am I going to do that and schedule it in? And you might want to have a little description of how you're going to hit that corner over and over and over. So really important just to frame that better as self-compassionately as you can. So yes, I got overtook in that corner and I do need to do better. But I also overtook someone else in that corner. So I also did pretty well. But obviously, you know that also cost you the race when you did get taken. So we need to make a plan on how to improve performance there. So that being said, I mean, the thing that you can do in between moments is, let's say, you know, any unhelpful thinking comes in, you might want to learn about that, learn about yourself, and maybe you can do a good, better how for that unhelpful thinking, right? So to do that, you know, it might be maybe you're just not feeling real connected at work or something like that, and you know that you would do better in life if you were connected. So maybe you can think, oh, what did I do good? Oh, well, I had a good conversation with Jack. He was nice. That was really good. What I think I need to do better is maybe I actually need to invite some people to do something after work if I want to feel more connected, something like that. And then how am I going to do that? Well, I think Jeff's a pretty good bloke. Maybe I could ask him when and where am I going to do that? Wednesday at 3:00. We usually, you know, you get what I mean.
Yes.
It's just got any context.
Yes. I was tuning into the community, so I'm really looking forward to coming back and hearing this. But we need to start the wrap up. even as you're talking with the requests in NBC, it's a 4-step process, and the last step is a request of myself. And when you're talking about what could I do at work for more connection, that is absolutely that final suggestion. In fact, it's very in fitting with NBC, starting with the observation, that critical mind, that that something's off, and then finishing with a request of myself to facilitate that in a compassionate way. Yes, so there is a few comments from the community, and we won't have a lot of time to answer them now. So I'm wondering whether you might check back in, Anthony, and I'll read them out just so we can get the juices flowing. There's probably a few themes there. So Lisa says, my self-doubt keeps replaying the friend's quote, "Do you have a plan?" And she says, "I don't even have a pla." And Lisa is a very valued member of our community. So we know that she's been packing, she's been moving house, so self-doubt is obviously coming up. Any quick response on that one, Anthony?
So if I hear that correctly, the critical mind is it's almost like it's a part of you that is just hearing that and then going, bam, but I don't even have a plan. Am I hearing that? Was I hearing that right?
Yeah, please let us know, Lisa. I think seems to be quite a bit of response to the term self-doubt.
Yeah.
So Stephanie's asking, what happens if you have a perfectionist mind? I mean, my first thought there is a lot of, maybe leaning too much to the challenge at the expense of the comfort, or too much of the critical mind without being in balance with real self-efficacy. And Steph, I know you, girl. God, you have self-efficacy coming out of your ears. But yes, any thoughts on how to deal with perfectionism in this context?
Well, I think essentially, so this method, right, will get you moving if you are, unmotivated, for an example. But if you're overly motivated, wanting to do many different things, I think that this is also a very helpful method, because on both ends of it, you want to be in that sweet spot, right? So I hear you on the perfectionism. In schema language, I definitely resonate with the unrelenting standards. So I think coming back to that balance and using a good, better, how is a great way to do so.
Excellent, thank you. We've also got Sarah saying, I know you spoke about the relationship with confidence, but it seems like it's all about confidence, ? That was when we were talking earlier about the difference between confidence being a character trait, was how I understood it, and self-efficacy being a skill. I'm not sure if it's thoughts on that one.
So, that's the thing, right, is the more confidence you have, the more likely, if it's real confidence, which is belief in your abilities as a whole, right? Essentially, what that means is it's likely that you will perform well. Okay. Now, the difference being, we're thinking about how do we get that confidence. So you need self-doubt. So if you don't have self-doubt, then you're not pushing too much into the challenge zone. Or you have inaccurate and unreasonable beliefs about yourself. So, if you have too much confidence, maybe you're too comfortable. And you might need to, or you might be ready to take on the next big thing, right? So when you want to take something on your plate, then you want to feel uncomfortable again. And then what you want to do is start that process. So, oh, now I'm feeling some self-doubt. Well, okay, so how am I going to get confidence? Well, I need to soften the self-doubt with self-compassion so that it turns into action. So then those actions can help me to build my self-efficacy, my sense of competence in these specific abilities, which then will then contribute to my overall confidence.
So the cyclic effect, and that's so true, isn't it? And that's why I love, that you focused on the small steps, because then I can build some confidence, which helps me build more action. And the more action I can take, the more confident I can be. And like you said, that genuine level. Yeah, what a wonderful topic. Let's definitely do this again. We've gone over time, but I really appreciate you giving up your family time on a Sunday. And I know the community will be relishing this. In fact, we meet next Sunday, and if you'd like to come along, Anthony, we'd love to see you there. We meet at the Graceful Bowls Club every last Sunday of the month for 2 hours, and we practice observing, feeling, needing, and requesting, which is just the central framework.
Yes.
Yeah. And there's a number of practitioners who are coming. There's a number of all different professions showing up, and you can. It's open to the public, so we would love to see as many of you that would like to come as possible. Feel free to share the word with your clients. I also need to let people know about the retreat. We have an end of financial year retreat. And our early bird, our super early bird, is closing next Sunday. So all you need to do is get your deposit in for that one, guys. Once your deposit is in, then you have secured the super early bird rate. What a delight to have you along. My goal that I've been sitting with was actually given to me by my business coach this week, and he said, Alexis, you just need one more regular client this week. So I invite you guys to take me up on that offer. Certainly we'll work with goals. I work mostly in the wellness space, mostly through somatic therapy. So yoga, nutrition, anything to do with breath and mindfulness. If you could use some support, some guidance, I work in 5-week batches. So please jump on board, make the most of that. And don't hesitate to leave some comments for Anthony. If you're listening to this not live, that is later on this week. And Anthony, are you okay if I just invite people to tag you? To check in and respond.
Absolutely. Yep. That's good.
Thank you once again. We'll see you next time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Ciao, guys. Have a lovely Sunday.